Howdy, folks, and welcome to another great adventure here tonight. Tonight, we're going to be back with my story of the life of the Rocky Mountains as we join this guy on his adventure in this book here, The Star Library. And he is going on an adventure into the mountains with a trapping crew. And this is back in the 1840s when trapping was still good. So, he's on his adventure. He's out with a crew of guys. They got wagons. They haven't really trapped anything. They left from Independence, Missouri, with a load of liquor. Then they're headed to a fort. They had to cross the Platte River and bunches of other rivers. They've experienced buffalo hunting. They experienced Indians getting drunk on the plains. They've experienced a lot of things: death and destruction, getting sick, winter weather. What will be next? Oh my goodness. So anyway, if you've been following along, this guy does this by dates. They left in like September, I think it is, if I am not mistaken. If I can find it here. The pages are old and rickety, and I have to be careful with them. So I touch them lightly. And if I can find a date in here, I'll remember where it was, so I can find it again. But it doesn't really say. I can't find it. But I think it was September off the top of my head. But I appreciate y'all for being here. It says 144 miles. You got to go through Kansas and Nebraska and all of that. You know, when you want to find one of the dates, you can't. I swear. You know, it's in here somewheres. A lot of pages in between the dates. September 26th. So yeah, they left in September sometime. In late August, early September. And as far as I can tell. So there you go. My purpose in visiting the Rocky Mountains is, in countries adjacent, have provided a fruitful source of inquiry in many persons I meet, and I'm aware of having devoted 3 years to travel in those remote regions. I am so piled with almost numerous other questions. I know no better way to dispose of them satisfactorily than by doing what I had thought of as an outlet to writing a book. So there you go. If you want to write a book, go out and experience what you're going to do. So with that, we're joining him now on December 25th. So he's been out there quite a few months on this trapping party as they adventure into the wilderness. So far they've been hunting buffalo and elk and deer and all that good stuff, experiencing lots of things. Now we're up to December 25th, and we're going to join his adventures right there. And so you don't want to look at my ugly mug. So we're going to share some pictures. Oops. Yeah, that's one picture. There we go. How's that? The buffalo in the background. Okay. With that, we can switch some screens and all's good. Okay, and I'm going to continue on. Well, thank you, everybody, from the chat room for being here tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. It's good that I have you there because it just makes my job better doing these readings. It makes me feel worthwhile. Put down a comment, give me a like, a subscribe, whatever. I'm trying to grow the channel. If you like these readings, these stories, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. Thank you. If you don't like them, well, let me know in the comments. Thank you. Anyway, December 25th. December 25th finds us in our new residence. which is the exception of a chimney and is now completed. Oh yeah, they were building a fort. Remember? They were building a fort. The great annual festival is observed with all exhilarating hilarity and a good cheer and circumstances will allow. Several little extras for the occasion have been procured from the Indians, which prove quite wholesome and pleasant tasted. One of these, called washia, consists of dried meat pulverized and mixed with marrow. Another is a preparation of cherries preserved when first picked by pounding the sun and sun drying them. They are served by mixing with the brulee or the liquor of fresh boiled meat, thus giving it an agreeable winish taste. A third is marrow fat, an article in many respects superior to butter. And lastly, we obtained a kind of flour made from the pomme blanc, white apple, answering very well as a substitute for that of grain. The above assortment, with a small supply of sugar, coffee, as well as several other dainties, variously prepared, affords the excellent dinner, and through different in kind, by no means inferior in quality to the generality of dinners for which the day is noted in more civilized communities. The day following, our tribunal neighbors were augmented in number by the ascension of another village of Brules and Martocashini, of whom I have spoken upon a former occasion. Gagershin, yeah. Because of this, or because with his family, our constant annoyance, visiting us at one time, squaws and all, as was his daily custom, to beg liquor. Oh, that's the Indian that came to beg liquor all the time, that they met in the beginning, which in some way or other, he always obtained. The brother of our tormentor demanded a quantity of that article to take with him to his lodge. This, after many sharp words, was offered, but having no vessel or its contents, he extended his demands to a kettle, which of course was refused, whereupon he threatened vengeance unless both were forthcoming up upon the prairie, and required still farther the gift of a pair of moccasins. Our trader replied, "The liquor is for you, and here are the moccasins," pulling off his own and passing them to him. "But the kettle you cannot have." The affair thus ended for the present, and the modest beggar retired to his lodge. The next morning, however, 2 of her horses were found pierced with arrows, and so badly that they died soon after. Wow, the Indian gets revenge, doesn't he? At another time, Marteau Cognersin became so enraged at being refused a whole keg of liquor on the prairie, he rushed upon the trader with his butcher knife to kill him. What would have been the result is hard to tell, had I not stayed and the descending weapon by seizing the fellow's arm. Here our soldiers interfered and put him out of the house, closing the door upon him. An exasperated savage then commenced shooting upon us through the door. 2 Indian boys passing in the intervals also furnished marks for his gun, and not long subsequently a mule and an ox belonging to us fell to appease his insulted dignity. However, the chief devourer of his heredity was exhibited in stealing our whole carnival covered, consisting of 10 head of horses. Oh, their whole herd. I don't know what a cavard is. It says here in the notes. This is a mountain phrase of Spanish origin. Cablardo. It means a band or horses of mules. Cablardo. Consisting of 10 head of horses and mules, which he drove into the mountains. We were compelled to give quantity of liquor and ammunition, 2 blankets, and several other articles before we could secure their return. From the movement of things, he was evidently instigated on by the American Fur Company traders to do us all the mischief in his power. Certain he was their regular soldier and received from them numerous presents in consideration of his good conduct. The employees of this company are frequently guilty of such disgraceful conduct. In connection with the conclusion, I might cite instance upon instance and string out a volume of proof where is necessary. Soon after Christmas, we commenced erecting our chimney, the materials for which were procured from an adjoining bank. While engaged in quarrying them, the operator came to a crevice filled with a strange fleshly substance coiled together like the folds of a huge rope. "Hello," cried he with astonishment. "Here's the devil himself." An extraordinary announcement brought all hands to the spot to get a peep at Old Nick and the Indians. Also witnessing the unusual commotion, came hurrying up to learn its cause. The result proved that if not the devil, it was his great prototype. It was that old serpent with all its prodigy. By means of a stick, 36 large snakes were exposed to view, some of them 6 feet in length. They were in a torpid state that results in the severe cold of winter. Having drawn them out one by one, it was proposed to treat them to a warm bath. Accordingly, after placing them in a hole for the purpose, a kettle of scalding water was thrown upon them. Vivifying effects of this unwanted application restored them to a sudden animation. When wriggling and twisting for a few moments in the contortions of agony, they at last tittlously curled up and expired. The Indians were much shocked at seeing this and expressed their astonishment at our reckless presumption, by they deeply assented Tula, turning away from the spot with evident emotions of terror. On inquiring the cause, I learned in answer that the various Indian tribes in the vicinity of the mountains are accustomed to regard the snake with a kind of superstitious and consider the act of killing it a sure harbinger of calamity, and the observance of a singular notion that scrupulously exact, that it might, but it, despite of repeated inquiries, I have been unable to obtain the reasons upon which the whim is based. The tribes cherish many religious tendencies, rites, customs, some general and others particular only to individuals. An Indian will never pronounce the name of the big medicine or great spirit other than in intervenial manner, nor upon trivial occasion. This being is considered the great superintendent of all things, whose power sustains the universe, causing day and night with the varying seasons, making the grass grow, the water run, and the rains to fall, for some good of man and beast. Some image, he lives in the sun, others in the air, others in the ground, and others in the immensity of his works. The animal or thing possessed of wonderful or extraordinary powers, such as their ignorance ascribes to be the attributes of the Supreme Being. They look upon as endowed with greater or less share of his presence, and venerate it accordingly. Thus, the sun, fire, lightning, thunder, fountains of particular medical qualities, extraordinarily localities, and various other things are alike objects of religious regard. Although their theological sentiments are generally the same, the manner of showing their respect for the overruling providence differs with different tribes, families, and even persons. For instance, some tribes shave their head in token of their submission to him. Others mark themselves for his own by particular manner of cutting their ears for the reception of ornaments, while others burn their thighs, tattoo their breasts, scar their arms, or flatten their heads of infants for a like purpose. The instrument with which such ceremonies are performed is invariably thrown away. In case of cutting the ear of an infant, the gift bestowed upon the operator is regarded as indicative of its success during life. Parents have been known to give as high as 10 horses on like occasions. Some make indelible marks of blue color upon their chins, foreheads, or the figures of lizards, snakes, arrows, or other objects upon their arms. Some show their reverence in the particular manner of receiving the pipe and passing it to another. Others, by certain ceremonies before smoking, thus pointing the pipe stem to the zenith, then towards the ground, then horizontally upon either side, as if saying, "O thou whose habitation is immensely accepted, this as a willing tribute to homage from thy child." They will never allow a bone of any kind to be broken within their lodges, and express great consideration and alarm at such an occurrence. Some will not permit a stick of wood to be struck with a knife or other edged tool while burning, and others exhibit their own devotion by some particularly in the structure of their lodges, or the mode of placing their medicine bags, the length and shape of their arrows, their fashion of hairdressing, and various miniature of like character. Others, again, will never eat unless they bestow the first mouthful as an offering to the prairie, believing that as a prairie affords water, grass, and game for the good of the red man, it is the fullest embodiment of the essence of good. Therefore, in the observance of this practice, they not only acknowledge their faith in the existence of the Great Spirit, but set apart the first of their substance as test to their petty. Their ideas of existence of a principle or being who is the author and prompter of evil are crude and indefinite. They are ready to acknowledge its reality, but seem to consider its person more manifest in man himself than in any other creature or anything. Their enemies they esteem as the more special incarnation of the principle, and the next to them they regard a worthless, mean, and cowardly individual of their own people. They also look upon creatures of injurious and harmful nature as the greater or less impersonation of evil. Their notions of right and wrong are equally simple. It is right to be brave, to do good to friends, to relatives and needy, to feed the hungry, and worship the Great Spirit. These are acts of general mortality. There are various other duties taught by their code of relative to intercourse with each other, to children and parents. Husbands and wives deference to age, chastity, etc., the performance of which is essential to virtue. The line of demarcation between virtue and vice is yet more simple and comprehensive. Everything derelict of right is wrong. I shall recur to several points connected to the foregoing subjects in another place. Chapter 9. Oh, yeah, chapter 9. Okay, we're really getting on with these. Wow. So now you know all about the Great Spirit, right from the words of a guy who was there back in the day. Okay, chapter 10. The difficulty and danger, not to say crime and bloodshed, connected with the illicit trade in alcohol as conducted among our Western Indians is great and imminent. To illustrate this point, I need only to place before the reader a summary of facts which occurred, many of them under my own observation, during the winter of 1842. Soon after our arrival at White River, a man was sent to a neighboring village with a keg of diluted alcohol for the purpose of barter. The Indians, feeling more disposed to drink than to pay for it, demanded the keg as a gift on the prairie. This was refused. They threatened a fight, and it ensued. The soldiers and traders defending the keg, and the Indians trying to take it. Weapons were used, and the result was both soldiers and traders were beaten off, the latter being dragged through the lodge fire 3 or 4 times, narrowly escaped with his life. A party of Indians, under the excitement of strong drink, attacked and took a trading house of the American Fur Company nearby, robbing it of both liquor and goods. 2 parties of the fur company's employ from different posts met at a neighboring village, one having goods and the other alcohol. The Indians, as usual, got drunk and commenced to fight amongst themselves. Because the good trader happened to be in the lodge of one of the weaker party, they attacked him. He was compelled to flee and barely escaped with his life through the friendly interference of a squaw. His goods were all stolen, while one of the Indians who defended him was brutally murdered and several others wounded. Not long afterwards, our trader was shot at 3 or 4 times while engaged in this dangerous traffic, and one of his soldiers severely wounded. About the same time, the trader of another company received a deep stab while dealing out the vile trash and would have been killed but for the energetic efforts of his soldiers. Previously to the above, the Indians seized upon a trader and compelled him to stand over a hot fire until he was nearly roasted alive, meanwhile helping themselves to a stock in hand. Soon after, 2 warriors came to trade for a blanket at our post, one of whom was drunk. While being waited upon, the latter drew his knife and was in the very act of stabbing the unsuspecting clerk as I caught his wrist and arrested the blow. At another time, as our trader was standing surrounded by us all, he was shot at by a drunken Indian, who by the merest accident missed his object. Again, one night a party of drunken Indians undertook to fire the house in order to consume us alive, but were prudentially prevented owing to it being constructed of green pine logs. The most dangerous time I experienced during the winter was near the close of it. An Indian employed as our soldier became crazed about the drugged liquor as American Fur Company and made it his appearance before us in a high state of excitement. This fellow had been denominated by his people the the bull eagle, and was a chief, highly esteemed as a medicine man and regarded as the greatest brave, regarded as the bravest brave in the Sioux Nation. He was a tall, well-made, noble-looking person, and such eyes I never saw the like planted beneath the brows of any other. They glared like lightning, and as they fell upon the individual to whom directed, seemed to penetrate the very soul and read the embryo thoughts of his heart. Though the misrepresentations of those in the interest of the fur company, he fancied himself missued by our trader and came determined on revenge. Arms in hand and stripped for the contest, accompanied by his wife and 2 or 3 friends, he confronted us. His strange appearance told for what? In the fury of passion, his every look gave evidence of the raging demon within. Here, lest he should be misunderstood, he premised by a full statement of his grievances. They were many, but the chief of them was that our trader had employed another to act soldier in his stead, while he was too drunken to perform the duties of that appointment. I have been dressed as a soldier, said he, to be laughed at, and now Paris must die. The room was full of Indians, and one of them, an old man, exclaimed, "When Paris dies, let me go under. I must live no longer." It is this, your love for the paleface returned to infuriate chieftain. Then die you first. Upon this seizing and defenseless old man, he drew his knife and made a heart thrust. The intended victim, however, grasped the descending blade in his bare hand and arrested its course, but his fingers were nearly severed in doing so. Here, the wife of Bull Eagle rushed up to her husband and seized him by both arms, while others interfered, and the scene of conflict was removed from the apartment to the space in front. Now was a general fight. The woman and child, crying for terror, ran about in the utmost confusion and dismay, while raving Catabana yelled and whooped as knives and clubs, tomahawks were busily dealing wounds and scattering blood. Soon after, the parties retired to their village, and the melee ended with only 6 wounds. In a brief interval, Bull Eagle again returned, accompanied by his wife, the latter earnestly endeavoring to dissuade him from his purpose. A shot was his first salute on entering the door, which a timely thrust from the squaw averted from its object. The kind-hearted creature then grasped the bow, relinquished it in her hands, and the madman made a pass at the traitor with his tomahawk. This blow was dodged, and the heroine, rushing between the two, prevented its repetition. Dropping his tomahawk, he then fell upon the object of his hated butchered knife in hand. But here he found himself in firm grasp of several friendly Indians, by whom he was borne from the room. Oh wow, this guy's really getting mad. If he only could get a little drunker, right? He was just full of it. There's the woman and the child. The state of affairs was a signal for another engagement between the bull eagle and the head of the partisans and the friends of the whites, more desperate and bloody than the former. With great difficulty, we retained our arms from the forcible grasp of the contended fractions. This, to us, was a moment fraught with extreme peril, not knowing friend from foe, and instantly apprehensive of the knives and arrows and avengeful throng. This was indeed a moment when the agony of suspense quivered with thrilling intensity upon every nerve and vibrated in every sinew. To fight would have been a relief, but whom should we fight? It must have been our best friends, for who could discriminate? The death of one connected with either party of our hands would have proved the signal for our instant slaughter. Both would have united to exterminate us, and beset as we were upon all sides, indicated a strict neutrality, sometimes 15 or 20 would be struggling for our arms at once. A strong temptation as the reader may rest assured for us to use them in self-defense. Meanwhile, the conflict continued with unabated fury. Several attempts were made upon the life of Bull Eagle, but without success. 2 were killed and others wounded. When the final stop was put to the further effusion of the blood by the withdrawal of a chieftain to his lodge. In about an hour subsequent, he returned for the second time, but reason had now resumed her way, and he came to apologize for his bad conduct, calling our traitor his best friend. He cried for grief, and then he attempted to kill him. For grief because he attempted to kill him. He averted the liquor had made him a fool, and said he should never cease to regret the great wickedness he had thought of doing to his best friend, even after the affair. He remained our steadfast friend and presented our traitor with 6 superfine robes, in evidence of the sincerity of his reputation. Well, there you go. Well, we're going to stop right there. After that big fight, I'm all tired out. I don't know about you, but that seems a bit wicked and crazy to me. We'll just pick up right where we left off next time. So with that, here we go. But anyway, thank you all for being here tonight and listening to my story. Trying to keep them short so you don't get bored, because after about an hour, who wants to listen? So about a half hour is pretty good. So thank you all. Hope you're enjoying the story. Leave me a comment or a question, and hopefully we can get it answered and figured out. So thank you all for being here tonight. And remember, go out, do something nice for somebody else. Be the frequent